Matt, thanks very much. I'm joined here by Congressman Mike Conaway, the Republican from Texas, who indeed one of the members of the House Agriculture Committee today voted to issue this subpoena to Jon Corzine. Not an insignificant step, Congressman, as you know. Tell me why you think this is an important move to make, a necessary move.
Well, MF Global's bankruptcy, 7th or 8th largest bankruptcy in U.S. history, a big deal, particularly for folks in the area that the CFTC oversees, and the thousands and thousands of men and women who deal in the futures market to hedge risks and do the other kinds of things. So right now we've got a lot more questions than answers, and compelling Mr. Corzine to come visit with our committee is something we felt like we needed to do.
Is it your understanding at this point that Mr. Corzine was invited and that he turned down that request requiring the subpoena, or had you all even heard from him?
I don't believe we've heard from him. We'll work over the weekend with the lawyers and his lawyers to see if he can come without the subpoena being issued. But if he wants the subpoena issued in order to get him here, that subpoena will be issued to him to compel his appearance in front of the House Agriculture Committee.
It is an unusual circumstance in that he is one of your former colleagues here, a former senator, in addition to being CEO, governor of New Jersey. He's also someone who's facing potentially civil, criminal investigations here. Would you be surprised if Mr. Corzine did show up and invoked his Fifth Amendment?
No, I would not. He'll have counsel with him that'll advise him of his own individual rights. But there are folks all over this country who have questions that want to get asked, and we'll ask those questions and expect to get answers from him. He obviously has the Fifth Amendment as a protection if he chooses to go that route. But he's a man of great responsibility and trust, not only while he's at MF Global as the head of that, but as a senator and as a governor. People trusted him and what he had to say. And I think it's important we get his take and his information about what happened in MF Global, particularly with the segregated accounts, which seems to be the heart of much of what's going on, as well as what transactions were involved that drove MF Global into bankruptcy. What risks did they take, and why did they take those risks to create the financial downfall of this very large futures commission market? Because
he is a former public official, do you think Jon Corzine bears a higher responsibility to actually answer questions?
Well, yes, but not so high that he shouldn't have his Fifth Amendment rights. If he wants to invoke the Fifth Amendment, certainly that's always available to any American who wants to invoke that. But we'll have questions. It'll be up to him to decide whether or not he wants to answer those questions.
Is the committee being given a better understanding at this point in talking to regulators? You want to hear, of course, from Mr. Corzine as to what's happened to those customer accounts at this point. There's still even question marks about exactly how much money we're talking about.
Well, there is, and how much money was lost and available. There have been some initial distributions that are out there. And it's obviously keen on the 21,000 plus customers that have been caught up in this now MF Global affair. So we may have some information that the outside doesn't have, but I'm not aware of any at this stage.
What about your own concerns about the regulators involved here? The CFTC watches these futures accounts. The SEC played a role here as well. What are your questions for the regulators? I watched the CFTC chairman, Gary Gensler, and the SEC chairman, Mary Shapiro, get some pretty tough questions yesterday from the Senate side.
Well, as they should. We'll also be questioning the self-regulators, the various markets that have a role in self-regulating these conduct, to see what role they did or didn't play, what role they should or should not have played in this issue. So it's a shared responsibility. We'll look at what the CFTC did or didn't do, look at what the financials, we'll be focused on the CFTC. SEC, obviously, Financial Services Committee will do that, but CME and these other entities that are part of this safety net that is to protect the futures market from undue risks. How did they work or not work in this particular circumstances? So this would be a good learning experience for us. One of the questions we hope to ultimately answer is any of the Dodd-Frank regulations that have been proposed over the last year, had they been in place, what role would they have played, would they have helped or hindered this circumstance? Those kind of questions are for further down the road. First thing is to figure out what happened. And once we understand what happened, then we'll be able to look and see where the regulatory environment either contributed, helped, or hurt, or should be strengthened to the circumstance.
One suggestion that's already come up here, something the CFTC is going to be considering, is whether or not the actual customer broker, these customer segregating accounts, need to be audited as well on a more regular basis, as opposed to just the company's financials. What do you make of that? Is that a good idea, given what's happened here?
Well, you certainly have to lean that direction. Again, let's understand what happened. It's my understanding that the CFTC has been in on a spot basis and looked at those issues. Obviously, MF Global has an audit that includes broadly stated that issue, but let's find out what happened, why the segregated accounts were liquidated, if they were in fact, or why segregated funds became unsegregated and commingled with proprietary funds from MF Global. Let's understand what happened first, and then propose the fixes. But clearly, auditing that and having assurance that that the internal controls surrounding segregated accounts continue to work might very well be one of those answers.
Really quick, do you expect him to show up on December 8th?
I do. I do. If he doesn't, he'll be held in contempt of Congress, and we'll start down that path. But I suspect Mr. Corzine, he's a member of the former member of the Senate. He understands how serious that we take these issues, and I fully expect him to be here Thursday. And if he answers questions, fine. If he takes the Fifth Amendment, that's clearly his right as well.
All right, Congressman Conaway, we appreciate it. We'll of course be watching that hearing on December 8th in the House Agriculture Committee.